to a nice little video on the imperfect subjunctive. But first, let's go back to the original present subjunctive and see if we can make a bridge between the past to the present knowledge. Alright, so remember the first time that we encountered a subjunctive, we said that subjunctive is not really a tense, but it's more of a mood, like how somebody's feeling about a particular topic. So when you talk about simple information and making questions, that is the good old present tense or the indicative. When you want to get people to try and do something, you can either use commands, which are a very direct way of ordering somebody about, or you can use the subjunctive to tell them how you feel about a particular topic. So, you'll probably start out with, I prefer that you, I think it's urgent that, I'm kind of doubting that he would. So all those things exert influence on the second half of the sentence. So we said that the subjunctive consists of the independent clause, which will usually have one of these three engineers running the train, right? There's either going to be wishes, emotions, or doubt, denial, and disbelief. You're usually going to have a K in the middle to connect both the beginning and end of the sentence. And then finally, in the end sentence, the verb needs to be changed because of the wishes, or emotions, or doubt that was up here in the front. Okay, so remember, do you need to use the subjunctive? So D, E, W. Right? So if you don't have both a clause and a K followed by another clause, then it's probably not subjunctive, such as, I prefer to use marker. That's not subjunctive, because you have yo prefiero, but there's no K, because I'm not trying to get somebody else to use markers. I'm just making a statement. I prefer to use markers. If I would change it to, I prefer that you use marker for your project, that would be the subjunctive, because I'm trying to get you to do something through the power of suggestion and through my voice. Okay, so once we saw those, we said that here's a couple of examples. Like my dad really wants me to, or prefers that I do my homework right now. Right, so my dad is influencing me. He's exerting sort of pressure on me. Right, sort of like the conductor of the train, gets the back of the caboose to go, all by pushing some levers. Same thing here, where they weren't too sure that you had broken the window. So now I'm planting doubt in the minds of the listener. And finally, you have, I was mad that the students didn't come. So maybe next time they actually would come because they found out that I was upset about it. Okay? So, your short little review of just a regular subjunctive has to have some element of doubt, emotions, or wishes. You're usually going to have your two clauses, the front and back one, connected by a K, and you have to have a different subject in the front and back. If I say, I don't believe that I have enough money for this candy bar, that's the same person, so you don't need subjunctive. If I would say, I don't believe that we have enough money for this candy bar, that would be subjunctive because there's an I in the front and a we in the back. Okay, so there's just a few of the many, many verbs that can trigger the subjunctive. Okay, so that was our initial foray into the world of subjunctive. Today, we're going to talk about the imperfect subjunctive. Well, when do you use this tense? Well, mostly when the main clause is in the past tense, you're going to need the past subjunctive, or, quote, the imperfect subjunctive. She wanted me to speak. So instead of she wants me to, ella quiere, it's quería. So as soon as I see that the verb in the engine part of the sentence is in the past, I've got to change this to the imperfect subjunctive. Okay? Or another way to say that was, oh, I was so hoping that he wouldn't come. And all this is in the past, not, oh, I hope that guy doesn't come because he always ruins everything. I hope that he doesn't come is present subjunctive. I was hoping that he wouldn't come, or I was hoping that he didn't come, would be the past subjunctive. Well, what about if the end of the sentence is in the past? Oh, she hopes that I did my homework because it's worth 50 points today. Or I'm so happy that he studied, so he should do really well on his Apple test. Okay? So if you have anything in the past, either the first half of the sentence or the second half of the sentence, or maybe the whole thing is in the past, you're always going to use the past / imperfect subjunctive, right? So first half or second half, imperfect subjunctive. You don't see any past usage, that's probably going to be the present subjunctive. The other time when you may use the imperfect subjunctive is when there's a hypothetical situation. And that goes really well with the conditional tense that we learn. Right? So hypothetically, if Mrs. Koberstein were my wife, what would we do? Would we come together in one car in the morning, but then I have a different schedule than she does? Would we eat lunch together? Yeah, what would we do? Okay, so if she were my wife, and so this you've probably heard before with the infamous, if a tree were to fall in the forest, would it make any sound? And then there's people who debate, yes, it would, because sound does not depend on the listener. Other people say, no, sound not heard is not a sound at all. So yeah, that's a debate for the ages. Okay? Here's another hypothetical situation. If he had a pencil, he would write the answer. But it looks like he doesn't have a pencil, so he's just going to sit there and stare at his paper. I mean, how can he get the answer on there? Maybe use his thumbnail, but that'd be really weird. It'd be leaving impressions and really hard to do. So if he had a pencil, but he doesn't, right? And we could go on and on and on. If you were to run the mile, would you be out of gas at the end? Or if you were to be given a chance to speak at graduation, would you do it? Okay, so because of the hypothetical situation, usually followed after C, right? You're going to switch this to the past subjunctive. You don't say if you am my wife, or if you are my wife, or if he has a pencil. Nope. Even in English, we switch it to the past. Okay. All right. Quick recap of your present subjunctive versus your imperfect subjunctive. Okay. Here, everything's in the present tense. He doubts that you know. Right. And then here we have he doubts that you knew. Right? And then at the bottom, here's how you're going to be able to form the the imperfect subjunctive tense. And it's going to be based on once you take off the regular form of the preterite, right? Hablaron and vivieron and dijeron. Once you have it in the base form, then take off the ron, the R-O-N, and the majority of people are going to put back on some form of ra. Ra, ras, ra, ramos, rice, ran. There are a few countries that still use the archaic say, same as say, sen, but this is more popular. This is more like 80% versus 20%. All right, and there you have the 3 forms of verbs down below that show you how it's actually done. And now I'm going to go ahead and send you to studyspanish.com, and you guys can see whether or not you're able to actually form this yourselves. All right, guys, see how well you're able to do it, and we'll get back tomorrow, and we'll try it then. All right, thank you. Bye. Oh, don't tell me I didn't do it. Hello. Oh, come on. New audio recording. Oh, it didn't do it. Jerks. I hate the QuickTime Player. Hey, what can I do for you?